to celebrate a great anniversary in British-American relations and extract ourselves from the practical difficulty of this invitation having been issued. But if you're asking me, if it was the issuing of that invitation that secured a reaffirmation of the special relationship, a commitment by the President of the United States to NATO, reinforced by senior members of his administration in Europe this weekend, and an opportunity for us to reinforce the voices into the White House from the State Department, from the Republican caucus, from the Pentagon and the CIA, that was infinitely the right thing to do.
A number of colleagues who've already spoken are intervening. I know this is a debate, but if they desist from intervening, we might get everyone in from their own parties as well. Kirsten Oswald.
Mr Walker, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship, and I am pleased to be able to speak today on behalf of the thousands of my constituents who signed the petition objecting to Donald Trump being invited to the UK for a state visit, as well as the large number who contacted me saying they didn't wish to sign that particular petition, but they strongly objected to a state visit taking place. And many of those who contacted me said they'd never signed a petition before, but they felt so strongly that this was wrong that they had done so now. And no wonder they were concerned. But what on earth have we come to that the UK government should for 1 second think that it was appropriate to reward the disgraceful statements and actions of President Trump with a state visit? A state visit with all the pomp and ceremony and fantushery of the British establishment. It is hugely depressing to hear those on the Conservative benches who support the state visit yet again today telling us that it's important we engage with President Trump because America is our friend. And so it is. But that's why we should challenge this. President Trump's administration so far has been characterised by ignorance and prejudice, seeking to ban Muslims and deny refuge to people fleeing from war and persecution, because that is what he said and that is what he has done, and it is simply racism. But the Prime Minister has decided that she'll take any friend she can get for her hard Tory Brexit, and to hang with the refugees, to hang with the Muslims, to hang with anyone who's different, to hang with our EU nationals, to hang with women, Mexicans, to hang with people fleeing war and terror, because that is what this plan for a state visit says. And let's not kid ourselves. This UK government, with its ever-reducing plans to help child refugees, has knowingly and deliberately couried into this Islamophobic, misogynistic, dangerously confused, if events in Sweden are anything to go by, leader of the free world. Instead, as one of my constituents said to me, of having the balls to stand up and show some kind of moral backbone. President Trump's words and actions are horribly destructive for Muslims across the world. They absolutely will foster Islamophobia and racism. And we have all heard about the nasty, insidious, creeping racism that has felt able to raise its ugly head. Hate crime incidents up 41% in England and Wales since the Brexit vote. And this state visit ramps that up further, giving all those who feel the need to persecute other people the comfort they need, especially as they may now feel that it's rubber-stamped by this rudderless shambles of a UK government. On these benches, we have grave concerns about the effect this has on people living, working and studying in Scotland. And many Muslims are understandably upset and fearful. And other groups too are upset and fearful. As the mother of mixed-race children, I am upset and fearful for the future in a way that I have never been before. Because this is a time of flux and uncertainty. And there are dark clouds gathering in many parts of the world. Our job here should be to shine a light, to stand tall. We should be taking the moral high ground and sending a firm message to President Trump that this will never be acceptable and he needs to stop. But instead, this UK government has rolled over to have its belly tickled. And shame on all of you involved if you don't rescind this invitation for a state visit now. This will never be in our name.
Edward Lee.
There are two ways you can approach this debate if you agree this state visit should go ahead. You can argue along the lines of national self-interest, which is the relatively easy way, and there's a more difficult way that you've got to seek to understand what Mr. Trump means to many people in America. So I'll start with the first. It seems obvious to me that great countries like our own act in their own national self-interest, and they issue these invitations in order to further that self-interest. Presumably, when we invited not one, but two presidents of China, we were prepared to overlook the fact that this is effectively, in China, a police state. There's no freedom of expression, of movement, of association. There's outright religious persecution. In every single respect, it is a state which doesn't share our values in any shape or form. Presumably, when we issued the invitation all those years ago to President Ceausescu and awarded him a knighthood, we felt it was in our interest so to do, our national self-interests. Indeed, we only rescinded the award of the knighthood on the day before he was executed by his own people. Presumably, well, of course, I'll give way to my honourable friend.
I think the author made a valid point, which is that there's not a great deal of consistency about the way in which we offer these state visits, or for that matter, the content of them. And I think it was particularly useful when we offered one to the President of Colombia, because I think that helped progress the peace process in Colombia. But I just wonder whether he wouldn't support the idea of the Foreign Affairs Committee and the Procedure Committee doing a proper review of state visits so that we get this right for the future.
That's a perfectly valid point, and I have no objection to that point of view. And just to continue the historical analogies, presumably when we invited President Mugabe, a racist homophobe, to have tea with the Queen, we were prepared to overlook his transgressions as well. And when we invited King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, who presides over the ultimate misogynist state, we presumably felt that Saudi Arabia was an important ally of our own. So we just got to be careful what we wish for in this debate. Just think for a moment. If we did listen to this petition, which people have signed in perfectly good faith, I accept that. It's a perfectly reasonable point of view. But if we were to accept it, if we were to, as a result of this debate, rescind this invitation, it would be catastrophic to our relationship with what is our closest ally. And I won't labour that point. But my honourable friend for New Forest has surely won this argument in that sense, that our whole peace and security, the whole peace and security of the Western world does depend on us using influence with President Trump. And I, for one, believe that the visit of the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, was an absolute triumph. An absolute triumph, in not only in furthering our national self-interest, but by binding President Trump and his new administration into NATO. And we are seeing the effects of that only this week in terms of what the Vice President has been saying. So I think that there's no doubt in my mind that it is in our national self-interest to accord respect and honour to our closest and our greatest ally. And whether we like it or not, this man